Hi guys, welcome to another video blog. I'm Danny Lacey, writer, producer, director, stroke filmmaker, and I'm on the filmmaker's journey where I'm sharing everything that I'm going through as a filmmaker. I must stress, I'm not trying to teach, I'm just sharing, because I'm pretty much learning as I go along, so hopefully you'll find my various websites of interest. I've got the website, which you can see here, dannylaceyfilm.co.uk, and loads of different sections on here. And if you want to find out what I'm up to at the moment, check out the projects section. These are all the films that I am working on. That was my first film, Angel of the Night, which is done and dusted back in 2009, 2010. And Love Like Hers, host, and That Day. They're all in there, loads of information, behind the scenes videos, the blog, and all the rest as well. Also on Twitter, Danny Lacey Film is my Twitter handle, or whatever they call it, twitter.com/Danny Lacey Film. I've also set up a second Twitter account. Now, some of you might find that a bit strange, but there is method in my madness. That account is for the more hardcore filmmaking folk out there, where I will be tweeting a lot more without apologising. You have been warned, there are lots of behind the scenes stuff on Danny Lacey Film 2, because I want to try and, I don't want to overdo it on my first account. But anyway, all the links online. In this video, Host is going to be the featured film that we're talking about, and again you can check that out on the website. Just look at the project section, click on Host, and you'll see the current teaser trailer, which is online, and loads and loads of information. So in this video, we're looking at the workflow for editing a short film. In this case, my short film, Host. We're looking at the editing workflow in Premiere Pro CS 5.5, getting ready for visual effects, and adding a temp soundtrack. I must stress that this is not I'm not saying that this is the way it should be done. Again, I'm not teaching, I'm just sharing. This is how I do it, and you probably more than likely have better ways of doing it than me. But this is how I do it, and it seems to work for me, and I'm sure I will develop and improve and find quicker ways of doing stuff as time goes by. But I just wanted to share what I'm doing on this, so I just wanted to get that out of the way. Right, first things first, housekeeping. So when I start a project, everything goes in one folder, in one master folder, usually the name of the project. In this case, it's Host. In there, you'll find all the usual suspects. There are the default folders that Adobe Premiere Pro sets up when you start a new project. I've got all the project files there. Some of you will recognise those as Final Cut Pro projects, because I started the Host edit in Final Cut Pro and then moved over to Premiere. I brought in the capture scratch disc from Final Cut, where all the video is added, and audio and various other bits and pieces. In this case, there's two actors, two different scenes, two different type of location setups. The main scenes with Raf, our main actor, was shot on the Red Epic, and these are all the Red files stored in its own little folder. And then the other scene was shot on a Canon 5D, and I've just put those in there in the Capture Scratch folder. We've also got storage folder in there, loads of kind of random miscellaneous files, EDL and XML lists, sound effects, which will eventually be added to the temp sound. And there's a whole batch of sound music in there. We've got graphic design as well. I'm currently working on the poster for Host, which is going to be used as part of the press pack for when we send it to festivals. It's not finished yet, but that's our main actor, Raffaella De Gratola. Do check him out on IMDb. And so, yeah, working on that. So I keep everything in one folder, and basically everything has a place and its own folder, and it just makes life a whole lot easier. Also, and this is a really handy tip, and you should really put this into practice, I save different versions of my sequences as I go along. So I'll do an edit, and then I'll duplicate the sequence and rename it Edit 3, Edit 4, Edit 5, and so on and so forth. So if anything goes wrong with the latest edit, I can always take a step back and work on an earlier version of the project, and that way it's just a kind of safety net, just in case anything goes wrong. So that's the general setup. Let's get into it then. This is Premiere Pro. I usually have a different setup, but because we're doing screen grab on one monitor, I've kind of put everything on the same screen so you can see it. So this is the latest edit of the film. We are editing on a 1080p timeline, as you'll see here, 1080p, 1920 by 1080, 90 by 1080, as you can see, ProRes 444. But the video is actually 5K, because we shot this on the Red Epic. We're actually, as you can see, the actual original video is 5K, and there it is, 5120 by 2160, which means we can zoom in on that if we want. If we wanted to reframe around his face there, we could zoom in without losing any information or resolution, and it's going to be great for grading and everything as well, because there's so much colour information in there. So very much looking forward to digging into that. I've also set the playback rate on this. It might be to a quarter, because the files are so big. It's very processor intensive, and it does stutter from time to time when you're playing it back. You don't need to do any rendering, which is the great thing about Adobe. It'll play the 5K footage back, no problem. But I set it to quarter resolution just so that it's a lot smoother for playback, and it just speeds the whole thing up a little bit. Okay, a little exclusive for you. This is the opening shot of the film. I'm just going to play it for you. This is all I'm going to show you. So this is ungraded. There's a lot of grading and music and obviously everything else to add to it yet, but this is going to be our very first opening shot, and I really like that. I think it's going to look and sound great when we add a soundtrack to it. So there you go. That's as much as I am giving you. And this, as you can see, is my timeline, and it is very close to being a locked edit. So we've got one track of video for the main part of the video, and then all these audio files. This is just dialogue. There's nothing else in here except dialogue for actor 1, which is Raf, our main actor. Those are his dialogue tracks. And then John, who is our second actor. Now, there are two actors in this film. We have our main actor, Raf, and then we've got John, who plays the part of our kidnapper. And we shot John's scenes the other day, actually, on the Canon 5D. And this is the footage, and I used my Movie Slate app on my iPhone for the clapper, which was brilliant, because we recorded sound separately. I recorded sound on a tie clip mic and a boom mic into a Zoom H4n. So I used that to make syncing the sound up easily. So these are all John's scenes that we shot the other day, and they're now ready to be put into the edit. And John, his mouth will be going there. We're going to be compositing his mouth onto the TV screen. That is where our kidnapper does all his evil things, in there. And let me just zoom in so you can see this. So we have John's mouth, and the idea is to get his mouth, just his mouth, onto the TV screen. Now we're going to do this in After Effects, but what I did do, just to kind of see generally what the effect is going to look like and how it's going to look for framing, I did a quick edit in Adobe Premiere. Now please, this is not what it's going to end up looking like. This was just a very quick test just to give me some idea of where we're heading with it. So I did a little bit of tweaking, I did a quick colour grade on it, a bit of resizing and so on and so forth. So his mouth is going to go in there. Obviously this is dreadful, it looks awful, but it's just a reference for me, just to make sure that we're heading in the right direction with the framing. And I think it's going to look great. I think it's going to look, with a bit of grading, a lot of work in After Effects, I think we're going to get the desired effect. So very, very pleased with that. Right, I'll switch that off. So I'm in the process at the moment of putting John's scenes with dialogue over where he needs to be, and then I'll duplicate the video. So I've got 2 layers of video. And with a second layer that I actually edit in Adobe After Effects. So I've got one clean version just in case. Okay, so that's the visual effects, and all that will be done in After Effects. So we'll be doing that today. Temp sound is the next phase. I'm about to add a temporary soundtrack. This involves Foley, room ambience, and music. And the beauty of doing a temp sound is you can steal music from any film because it's not going to be released, obviously. But then I've got something to send to my composer, Richard Bodgers, who's working on this film for me. So he gets some idea of the tone and feel and pacing I need for this film as far as music goes, and then I'll leave the rest up to his creative, up to him really. He can kind of work on it from there. So the next phase is to put the temp sound on. Now I'm not going to do that in here because I don't think Adobe Premiere is set up for it, even though we've got all these tracks available to us, and we've got some basic audio editing kit somewhere. Where's the audio mixer? There it is. But it's not great. You can't do many effects and stuff with it. So I've decided to do the sound mix in Adobe Audition, which comes with it's part of the Adobe family. Now I've used Adobe Audition before, so I'm very familiar with how to use it. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to get my audio, my dialogue, my 4 or 5 tracks of dialogue into Audition, ready to then add all the temporary sound, like I said, the Foley, the ambience, and some music. And the way I'm going to do that is by exporting the dialogue tracks as OMF files and exporting the current video as a reference so that I can, I've got something to look at while I'm adding the sound, which will all become clear in a second or two. So first job, let's export the sound. So we've got all our audio tracks switched on. We'll go up to File, we'll go to Export, and we're exporting OMF. Okay, I'm going to leave the title of the OMF file the same as the sequence. It just keeps everything nice and simple. The sample rate 48K, 16-bit. I prefer to keep separate audio. It just makes life easier. They'll all go into individual tracks. AIFF format's cool, and I prefer to have complete audio files, which gives me room for editing the audio tracks, the audio dialogue tracks in Adobe Audition. You click OK, and again, going back to our original folders, I now need to put these files into the folder that I've already set up. If we go back to Host, I've set up a folder called Adobe Audition Sound Mix, and in there is Premiere Audio Exports, in brackets OMF. Now I've already exported this file, so I'm not going to bother doing that here, but these are the files you'll end up with: the OMF file and then a folder that contains all the audio files. You'll click save and away you go, but I'm not going to bother on this occasion. And also then exporting the video, which again, very simple. I'm not going to bother because I've done it already, but export media. You'll then get this screen that appears, and untick audio. We don't need audio, we just need video as a reference file. And then just do the lowest resolution you can do. Don't export it as a full 1080p file, it's just completely pointless. You just want it as a reference file. Click export and away you go. So fiddle with the settings in here. PAL 720 by 404 is what I've set it as, 3.1, and away you go. Also, before I forget, I like to set a second 25 frames of tone and sound and audio at exactly 1 minute. That's just as a sync reference point for when my composer does his music, because he'll do the same, and then when he sends me his music files, I can then just sync it up very easily, and then the actual film starts at 1 minute and 30. So there you go. Right, okay, over to Adobe Audition. So we've opened Adobe Audition, we've got nothing in there at the moment, and this process is very straightforward. In the Files folder at the bottom, we'll right click, go to Import. First job is to import our OMF files. So again, we'll go back to the folder, Adobe Audition Sound Mix, Premiere Audio Exports, OMF. Find your OMF file, double click, it'll open. For some reason, it keeps doing this. I can't figure out how to stop it, but it's very easy to solve. You go to Link Media. It's basically not, it can't find the audio files. It can collect the OMF file, but it can't find the audio files that are associated with the OMF files. So link media, go to the host folder, Adobe Audition, OMF. In there you'll see the folder that contains all the audio. Find the file it's trying to point to, which begins with 40F, which is that one. Click open, and by magic it'll find all the files it needs. As you can see, it's put them all into individual tracks, very much like it is in the timeline on Premiere. They're all in exactly the same order. I've labelled up each of the tracks as well, which I think is incredibly important. And in Audition you can see it's actually brought the labelling with it, which is very handy. Next job, import the video reference file. Right click, import, go back to the main Adobe Audition sound mix, and in there is where I've put the exported video. Click open, find that in the projects files folder, literally drag it into the multi-track, and here presto, it is in, and everything is synced up perfectly. So there's your video in the screen over here, and you can resize that if you want. I tend to stick to around about that size, it's perfectly enough. And then, there you go, everything is in. And now I can start adding tracks. So add a mono audio track, I can relabel it, so Foley 2, and start adding temporary music. So we'll add Foley first, I'll then add some ambience, I'll then add the temp music soundtrack by stealing lots of music from other films, just as a reference. And then that's it. And the great thing about Adobe Audition is it's such a powerful tool. And again, I've used it for many years, so I know how to use it, which is always an advantage. It used to be called Cool Edit Pro, and then they got bought out by Adobe, but I've used it for about 10-15 years in total. So you can go into an audio track, so we've got this particular file here.
You son of a bitch.
Okay, double click on it. We go in here and we can increase volume, and we've got all sorts of handy tools in there as well. You can reduce noise, add sound effects, and do all sorts of bits and pieces. I'm not going to bother on this occasion, but it's just great to have it all in there. And then once you've done the sound mix, you'd go to Edit, and then multi-track, mix down to new file, mix down entire session, and then re-import that back into Adobe Premiere. So there you go, a slightly long-winded look into my workflow on working with this short film. Hope you found that interesting, and I will of course have more video blogs online soon. When I get a little bit further down the line, we've got grading to do. I'll be doing a visual effects blog and lots of others. And don't forget, keep your eye on the website, dannylaceyfilm.co.uk. You can find out more information about Host in the project section. Click on that and away you go. And of course the blog. Check out the blog. So there you go. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching.